Hey everyone! Welcome back to Rich and Free. Today, we are diving into a fascinating concept that explains why so many people struggle to build wealth, despite working hard. It is called Parkinson's Law, and it reveals how our mindset can often block us from achieving financial success. What is Parkinson's Law? The concept was introduced by historian Cyril Northcote Parkinson, and it states that people tend to focus more on trivial matters while ignoring the most important ones. At first, this might sound completely counterintuitive, but let me explain with an experiment he conducted. He created a fictional financial committee and asked its members to approve 3 projects: a nuclear reactor costing $10 million, a bicycle shed costing $400, a coffee station costing $20. Which project do you think took the longest to discuss? Surprisingly, the $10 million nuclear reactor was approved almost instantly. The project was too complex, and since no one in the committee was a nuclear expert, they decided to move forward quickly. However, when it came to the $400 bicycle shed, the discussion dragged on for hours. People debated whether the shed was big enough, what materials should be used, and whether it was even necessary. And the $20 coffee station? The committee spent the longest time arguing about it. They debated over the best type of coffee, what snacks to include, whether biscuits or chips were a better option, an absolute waste of time. How does this relate to your money? The same thing happens in personal finance. People often ignore the factors that truly impact their long-term wealth, but they obsess over insignificant details that barely matter. Instead of focusing on high-value financial decisions, like investing, increasing income, or making smart long-term choices, people waste time worrying about finding small discounts instead of focusing on earning more, choosing between 2 coffee brands instead of learning about compound interest, tracking every tiny expense while ignoring investment opportunities. This is why wealth is not just about formulas and financial laws. It is about psychology, our emotions, instincts, and deep-seated beliefs about money. How psychology controls the market. Money is deeply emotional, and the financial markets reflect this. If everyone believes the stock market will crash tomorrow, they sell their stocks today, causing the market to actually crash. This is what we call self-fulfilling prophecy. Are you trapping your own wealth? In nature, there is a type of bird that stores food by hiding it inside a tree hole. But there is one problem. There is another hole on the other side of the tree. The bird keeps placing more food inside, but it never notices that the food is falling out from the back. The more food it tries to store, the more it loses. Now, imagine that you are that bird. The food represents your money. And the holes represent your financial mistakes, bad money habits, and limiting beliefs. Many people work extremely hard to earn money, but because of bad financial decisions, they keep losing it just as fast. Some even fall into debt cycles, struggling to escape. In today's video, we are diving into one of the most talked about books in personal finance, The Psychology of Money. We are going to uncover the biggest money traps that stop people from building wealth and understand the dangerous mindsets that are making people lose money fast. Let's get started. There is a psychological bias that affects how people handle money, and it is more powerful than most realize. Author Morgan Housel explains that personal experiences with money shape almost all financial beliefs, even though those experiences barely reflect the full reality of the financial world. This is why different generations have completely different attitudes toward wealth. Grandparents who lived through economic hardship may believe that security comes from a stable government job. Some people from the same generation who took the leap into business may believe that entrepreneurship is the only way to financial freedom. These perspectives are not wrong, but they are based on personal experiences rather than objective financial truths. The problem is that people often take lessons from the past and apply them blindly to the future, even when the economic landscape has changed completely. What worked in one era may be completely irrelevant in the next. Ray Dalio, a billionaire investor, explains in his book Principles that every economy moves through long-term cycles. He breaks these cycles into 3 phases. The first is when a country begins recovering from economic collapse. After a major downturn, a new government is formed, businesses rebuild, and the nation starts growing again. The second phase is when the economy is booming. People get richer, businesses expand, and opportunities are everywhere. During this period, most people believe that things will continue improving, and the next generation is often wealthier than the previous one. However, wealth inequality also grows, creating deeper economic divides. The final phase is when overexpansion begins to cause problems. Governments and businesses take on too much debt, spending spirals out of control, and economic instability rises. The wealth gap reaches extreme levels, creating social tensions. If leaders fail to solve these financial imbalances, the country risks falling into crisis, and in extreme cases, even war. When the system collapses, the entire cycle starts over again. These cycles are long. One full cycle can last 40 to 50 years, meaning that most people only experience two major economic shifts in their lifetime. This creates a dangerous psychological trap. Someone who grew up in a time of war and financial instability might always expect disaster, leading them to avoid investing and taking risks. On the other hand, someone who grew up in a booming economy might assume that growth will continue forever, making them reckless with spending and investments. Both mindsets can be devastating for wealth building. A person who is too cautious might avoid opportunities for financial growth, missing out on years of potential gains. A person who is too optimistic might overspend, take on too much debt, and lose everything when the next downturn hits. The lesson here is that financial booms and busts are inevitable, yet most people fail to prepare for them. Economic conditions do not stay the same forever, and the biggest mistake is assuming that the future will always look like the past. The best way to build wealth is not to rely on past experiences but to understand where the economy is in the cycle, diversify income sources, and prepare for both opportunities and downturns. The most important financial lesson from history is that people rarely learn from history. Why do people never learn from history? One of the biggest reasons people repeat financial mistakes is that they cannot fully grasp what they have never experienced. Most people live in their own past experiences, and this distorts their ability to make objective financial decisions. This leads to one of the biggest misconceptions about wealth, believing that the future will always be like the present. Luck versus risk, the most overlooked factor in wealth building. Building wealth requires effort, discipline, and smart decision-making. However, luck and risk play a much bigger role than most people are willing to admit. People have a tendency to attribute their own success to skill, but when they fail, they blame it on bad luck. Yet, when they see others succeed, they assume it was pure luck, and when others fail, they say it was due to a lack of ability. This mindset is completely backward. Let's take the example of Bill Gates. Bill Gates was a programming genius from a young age. He started Microsoft at just 20 years old, but there's one key factor that is often overlooked. He had access to a computer in middle school. This was the 1960s, a time when personal computers did not exist. In 1960, IBM's 7090 mainframe computer cost $2.9 million, equivalent to $23 million today. How could a middle school student like Bill Gates afford such technology? He didn't. His school, Lakeside School, was one of the only schools in the country that rented access to a mainframe computer. Most graduate students did not even have access to computers at that time, yet Gates, as an 8th grader, did. Even Bill Gates himself has admitted, if there was no Lakeside School, there would be no Microsoft. This is why extreme success stories are often not repeatable. They contain too many random, non-replicable factors that most people will never encounter in their own lives. People copy the habits of successful individuals, but they cannot copy their luck, timing, or environment. This also works in reverse. When someone asks why they have not received a promotion despite working hard, or why their salary has not increased, they might be underestimating the role of luck and external conditions, while overestimating the role of personal effort. That does not mean hard work is useless. But it is important to acknowledge the role of luck and risk, so that financial planning remains realistic and balanced. Understanding this helps people avoid unnecessary self-doubt when comparing their progress to others and stay humble when they experience success. The balance between getting rich and staying rich. Making money and keeping money require completely different mindsets. Becoming wealthy often requires risk-taking, bold moves, and breaking barriers. But keeping wealth requires caution, discipline, and patience. There are many people who make money quickly through business or investing, but lose everything due to reckless decisions. To avoid this, one of the most powerful financial principles is compounding interest. Warren Buffett is one of the richest people in the world. However, most people do not realize that the majority of his wealth came after the age of 65. Out of his $84.5 billion in net worth, $81.5 billion were earned after he turned 65. Most people at that age have already retired. This is why compounding is so powerful. It rewards long-term patience over short-term gains. But here is the problem: compounding takes time. Many people do not have the patience to wait, so they chase high-risk, high-reward investments instead. The phrase, high risk, high reward, is misleading. What it really means is, high risk, small probability of high reward. Most people who chase quick profits lose everything in a single bad decision. Instead of focusing on extreme gains, the priority should always be financial security. As long as wealth remains stable and time is on your side, compounding will create extraordinary results. Compounding does not require a huge initial amount of money. It simply requires consistent, uninterrupted growth over time. Protecting wealth from black swan events. Aside from compounding, another major factor in wealth protection is avoiding financial disasters. The book The Black Swan by Nassim Nicholas Taleb explains that people often overestimate their ability to predict the future. A common mistake is focusing too much on growth while ignoring survival. It does not matter how much money someone makes if one financial disaster wipes them out completely. A single event, whether it is a stock market crash, a real estate collapse, or an economic downturn, can reset years of financial progress in an instant. This is why survival always comes first. Taleb famously said, "To succeed, you first need to avoid ruin at all costs." Building wealth requires boldness, innovation, and taking calculated risks. But keeping wealth requires risk management, preparation, and the ability to protect yourself from the unexpected. Black swan events are rare but high-impact events that cannot be predicted. The term, black swan, comes from a time when Europeans believed that all swans were white. No one had ever seen a black swan, so they assumed it was impossible. But when black swans were discovered in Australia, that belief was completely shattered. The concept of black swan events was introduced by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, and they have three key characteristics: unpredictability. Almost no one sees them coming, or people assume they're impossible. Extreme impact. When they happen, they cause massive consequences for the economy, society, and global stability. Hindsight bias. After they occur, people try to come up with rational explanations, making it seem like they were predictable all along. But the truth is, they were not predictable at all. People like to use hindsight to explain things from a godlike perspective, but if we look at the actual moment in history, no one saw them coming. Some of the most famous black swan events include the 2008 financial crisis. Before it happened, very few people saw the warning signs. When the collapse began, it was already too late. The 9/11 attacks. No one expected two planes to crash into the Twin Towers and change global politics forever. But black swan events are not always negative. Some create extraordinary opportunities, like the rise of the internet, blockchain technology, and artificial intelligence. These developments transformed economies in ways that no one could have fully predicted early on. From a long-term perspective, black swan events are inevitable. The problem is that most people do not plan for them. This is one of the biggest reasons people fail to accumulate wealth. For example, real estate is no longer the guaranteed investment it once was, yet many people still take on huge mortgages because they feel that owning a home is the safest financial move. But this decision comes with hidden risks. Many young people rush into homeownership too early, taking on massive loans that consume most of their income. This creates financial instability because young professionals typically have lower salaries, making it difficult to save, invest, or explore better opportunities. When most of your income goes toward paying off debt, you are trapped. You become dependent on a single job, afraid to take risks, and unable to make career moves that could significantly increase your wealth. Whether it's starting a business, switching to a higher-paying job, or investing in new opportunities, all of these require some level of financial flexibility. Once you are locked into high monthly payments, your financial decisions become limited. You lose the ability to take risks, even if those risks could lead to higher rewards. Then let's break down the real danger of debt. Most people do not realize that when they take on large, long-term debt, they are betting that no major black swan event will happen. They assume that there will be no financial crisis. They will never lose their job. They will not need emergency funds for health issues or family needs. They will not experience unexpected economic downturns. Even daily risks, like car accidents or sudden expenses, will not affect them. If everything goes perfectly for the next 20 years, they will be fine. But if one thing goes wrong, their entire financial foundation collapses. And if that happens, savings disappear, debt piles up, and the house they worked so hard for could even be foreclosed. This is not a rare scenario. It has happened to millions of people after financial downturns, layoffs, or unexpected personal crises. Why financial flexibility is more important than status symbols. Building wealth is not just about owning more assets, it's about having options. When people overcommit to debt, they lose flexibility. But financial security comes from having the freedom to adapt to changing situations. A young person who keeps their expenses low and investments diverse has the freedom to take risks, whether that's in business, new career opportunities, or investing in long-term growth. Not only does flexibility allow for calculated risk-taking, but it also provides a safety net for when black swan events inevitably occur. Another factor that most people underestimate in wealth building is the role of emotions. When I was in college, I used a stock market simulation to practice trading. Over 6 months, I managed to grow my portfolio by 20%. At the time, I felt like I had mastered the market. I even thought, if only I had invested real money, I would have made a fortune. But looking back, I realized that this success was built on zero emotional pressure. When the market dropped, I felt nothing. I was not afraid to buy more at a low price. I had no bills to pay, no financial obligations, no family to support. I had nothing to lose. But what if I had been investing real money? What if, at that moment, my financial security depended on those trades? Even if I knew, with 80% certainty, that my decision was correct, I probably would not have had the confidence to hold my position. I would have sold early or avoided risk altogether. When we take real financial risks, our emotions are shaped by our current life situation. Seeing bills pile up, supporting a family, and facing real financial pressure can completely change our risk tolerance. This is why having financial flexibility is so important. When you have a safety net, you can afford to wait out downturns and take advantage of opportunities. Without that buffer, fear takes over, and you panic sell at the worst possible time. Nassim Nicholas Taleb once said, "You can love taking risks, but you must hate losing everything." And that brings us to the next major wealth trap: ignoring the power of rare, high-impact events. At the 2013 Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting, Warren Buffett revealed an interesting fact about his investment career. He had invested in 400 to 500 different companies throughout his life. But the majority of his returns came from just 10 of those investments. Charlie Munger, his business partner, added that if you removed their top 15 investments, the company's performance over the years would have been just average. This pattern is not unique to Buffett, it applies to almost every major company. For example, Amazon's success is primarily due to two things: Amazon Prime and AWS cloud services. For Apple, its massive growth is almost entirely driven by the iPhone. Each of these companies had one breakthrough product or service that changed everything. But before that success, they all had countless failures. Amazon tried to launch a smartphone, a group buying platform, a travel service, an online auction site, and even an electric car brand. Every single one of these projects failed. Apple released the Apple III, the Lisa computer, an Apple gaming console, and even an Apple car project. All of these were failures. Even the iPhone itself was not an instant success. It took 4 generations before it became the world-changing device we know today. What this teaches us is simple: most of the time, we fail. But a few rare events have the power to change everything. Whether it's a lucky investment, a major career breakthrough, or a once-in-a-lifetime business opportunity, these rare, high-impact moments are what separate financial success from mediocrity. Most people assume that successful individuals never make mistakes. But in reality, they fail just as often as everyone else, sometimes even more. The difference is they capitalize on the rare opportunities that truly matter. Why focusing on avoiding mistakes is a losing strategy? Many people spend their entire lives trying to avoid making financial mistakes. They focus on minimizing risk, avoiding losses, and staying safe. And while this might help them survive, it won't help them get rich. Billionaire investor Richard Chandler once said, "I have never met a rich person who has never lost money. But I have met many poor people who have never lost a dime." This is one of the biggest psychological barriers to wealth. Many people believe that if they simply avoid mistakes, wealth will naturally accumulate over time. But wealth is not built by avoiding losses, it is built by seizing the rare opportunities that change everything. Avoiding every risk means avoiding every potential breakthrough. Most people expect their financial success to be a straight line. They believe that if they work hard, earn a steady paycheck, save, and invest safely, their wealth will naturally grow. But when we calculate the numbers, reality looks very different. A friend of mine once told me his financial goal was to work hard, save money, and retire comfortably. So we sat down and did the math. We calculated his current salary, future raises, investment returns, living costs, mortgage payments, and retirement savings. Even if everything went perfectly, with 0 financial setbacks, he would barely have $300,000 saved by retirement. When we factored in inflation, that amount was worth even less. He was shocked. He thought that working hard and playing it safe would guarantee financial success. But in reality, he had placed his entire future in a system of slow, linear growth. This is why so many people feel stuck in the middle class. They assume that if they just work hard enough, wealth will eventually come. But the truth is, wealth is rarely built through linear growth, it is built through strategic leaps. To capture rare, high-impact opportunities, we must be willing to fail quickly and learn even faster. Failure is not something to avoid, it is something to go through as efficiently as possible. Many people assume that successful entrepreneurs and investors never make mistakes. But in reality, they just fail faster, adapt, and keep going until they hit a breakthrough. However, this does not mean recklessly taking risks. This is where we circle back to Black Swan events and risk management. It is not about taking every risk possible, it is about taking the right risks while ensuring that a single mistake will not wipe you out. You can love taking risks, but you must hate losing everything. Even if you make 50% mistakes, you can still win in the long run if you seize the right opportunities. The next major wealth trap: confusing wealth and debt. Let me start with a question. What do you think wealth looks like? Is it luxury mansions, expensive cars, designer clothes, or diamond jewelry? Most people assume that these things represent wealth. But in reality, they are not wealth at all, they are liabilities. So why do so many people believe that owning these things makes someone rich? Because these symbols are easy to see. You cannot look at someone and immediately know how much money they have in savings, how many investments they own, or whether they have trust funds or company shares. Since real wealth is often invisible, people focus on what they can see: lifestyle, cars, and luxury goods. But true wealth is not what you spend, it is what you keep and what generates more income for you. Everything that does not generate money is a liability. Many people make the mistake of constantly buying things that do not create value, even going into debt to afford them. But when liabilities grow faster than assets, financial collapse is just a matter of time. This is one of the biggest reasons why even high-income earners can end up broke. There is a difference between being rich and being wealthy. Being rich means you earn a high income, but it does not mean you are financially secure. Many high-salary professionals spend aggressively on luxury goods, expensive homes, and flashy cars to showcase their success. But these purchases consume their income instead of growing it. If a large portion of their paycheck goes toward paying for these things, then despite their high earnings, they are still living paycheck to paycheck. On the other hand, truly wealthy individuals also spend money, but their spending is a tiny fraction of their total assets. Many self-made millionaires and billionaires own luxury items, but these expenses might represent less than 1% of their net worth. Meanwhile, their businesses, investments, and stocks generate passive income that far exceeds what they spend. This is why someone who is still in the process of building wealth should never try to imitate the lifestyle of someone who is already wealthy. Trying to live like the wealthy before becoming wealthy is a fast track to financial disaster. If you want to accumulate wealth, the worst thing you can do is spend money just to appear rich. Flexing wealth is the fastest way to lose it. But why do so many people obsess over luxury and status symbols? As we grow older, we start associating happiness with how much we spend. As kids, a simple lollipop could bring us joy for an entire day. But as adults, we feel like we need to buy a new car, an expensive laptop, or even a house just to feel satisfied. Most of the time, though, it is not because we truly need these things, nor is it because we even genuinely like them. There are deeper psychological forces influencing our spending decisions. This is a massive topic, so in a future video, we will explore exactly what drives our buying behavior and how to make better financial choices. If there is one simple rule that separates the wealthy from everyone else, it is self-control over spending. Many aspects of life, art, relationships, career choices, and investments, are heavily influenced by human psychology. Money is no different. Most financial decisions are not purely logical, they are shaped by emotions, biases, and subconscious habits. The goal of understanding the psychology of money is to help us recognize these patterns, so we can break free from financial illusions and bad habits. If you have watched this far, you now understand that there is no absolute certainty in money and investing. But by being aware of the psychological traps that affect our decisions, we can learn to navigate financial uncertainty, control our impulses, and make rational, long-term financial choices. I hope this video was valuable for you. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. What money myths have you struggled with the most? See you in the next episode of Rich and Free.